We are going to be talking today about improper fractions and mixed numbers. In order for us to be able to move forward with what we're doing in our unit, we need to understand what these concepts are. And in our book, it doesn't really go into detail and explain it. So I'm going to do my best to explain it to you in a way that's going to make sense to you. First of all, let's talk about a mixed number. A mixed number is just that. It's all mixed up. It doesn't know whether it's a whole number or a fraction because it contains both parts. If I have something like 3 and 4/6, you can see here that I have a whole number 3 and I have a fraction 4/6. So because it has components of both a whole number and a fraction, we call that a mixed number. It's all mixed up. It's got both of them. We have at least 3 pizzas, but we don't have enough to call this a whole. So we have 4/6 of a whole. In other words, if the pizzas are cut into 6 slices, we have 3 whole ones, and then we have 4 slices in the next pizza. That's how you can think of it. So we would have that pizza, that pizza, that pizza. That would be your 3. And then over here, we have another pizza. Let's divide them up into 6. 2, 4, 6. Just pretend they're all even. 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Okay, so that represents our whole pizzas. That's where we get our 3. Over here we have 2, 4, 6, but we have 2 of those slices that somebody ate. So we only have 4/6 of the next pizza. So what do we have? We have 3 wholes and 4/6. That's how we would write a mixed number. My hair's doing something wacky there. So 3 wholes and 4/6 of the next. So this number would fall between the whole numbers 3 and 4. It's more than 3 because we have extra, but it's not quite 4. Now, something else I want you to be introduced to, if you're not sure what it is called an improper fraction. It's IM. See that? Improper fraction. Typically when you see a fraction, you see a lower numerator than you do a denominator. 2/3, 4/8, 15/20. The numerator is less than your denominator because a fraction typically means that it is less than a whole. So in order for you to have less than a whole, you have to have your numerator being less than your denominator. If it were the same as your denominator, that would represent 1 whole. And if it's greater on top than it is on the bottom, well, that's what we call an improper fraction. So let's use this example here so that you can kind of see, since it's something you're familiar with. Here we were talking about 3 whole pizzas and 4/6 of the next. And we would write that as 3 and 4/6. That's how you would say that number. But because we're talking about sixths, that's what we're talking about, sixth, we could also say, let's figure out how many sixths we have. One of these little slices is called a sixth, right? Because that's what we've divided our whole into. So if we count them up, we have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how many sixths we have in this model. Well, we know we've got 6 here and 6 here and 6 here, so that would be 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 3, so 6, 6, and 6, 6 plus 6 plus 6. That's 18, and then we have 4 more. So we have 19, 20, 21, and 22. What is it that we're talking about? We're talking about sixths. So what are they? We have 22 sixths. That looks kind of weird, doesn't it? That's because we have at least 1 whole in this number because we have a greater number in our numerator than we do in our denominator. That's how you can tell that it's improper, because we have a larger numerator than we do a denominator. And that is one way that when you see a fraction like that, you can say, oh, that's greater than 1 whole. So here we have 3 and 4/6. 1, 2, 3 whole pizzas, 4/6 of another pizza. We can also say that very same amount is the same thing as 22 sixths. So these amounts, 3 and 4/6 and 22/6, are actually equivalent. Here's our model to prove it. In this way, we have a whole number plus a fraction, not that we're adding it, but it includes a whole number and a fraction. That's what makes it a mixed number. Down here we have an improper fraction. An improper fraction is when you have a larger numerator on top than you do your denominator. You need to know what those terms mean, because in some of the exercises we're going to be doing this week, you've got to know what it's talking about when it says a mixed number or an improper fraction. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to show you is what to do, a faster way to solve the improper fraction and change it into a mixed number. Every mixed number can be turned into an improper fraction, and every fraction that's improper can be turned into a mixed number. So let's go back to what we were doing before. If we have 22/6, and that's our improper fraction, the way that you can convert that is, let's go back to thinking, what do I do with a fraction when I see it? What does this line mean? Do you remember? It actually means division. So this is saying 22 divided by 6. In other words, 22 divided by 6. 6 goes into 22 3 times. Let's get rid of this. 3 times 6 is 18. When I subtract, I get 4. I'm good to go. Now, I'm going to throw another option of how to write the answer to a division problem. So far, you've learned that you could do 3 with a remainder of 4 because we have 4 left over. You could also say, let's go ahead and write this as a decimal, and you could put your decimal point in here, add your 0 and bring that down. 6 goes into 40 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. We subtract and we get 4. You check, you're good, you bring your 0 down. And you can see that it's going to be a repeating decimal, so you would eventually round that. We always round to the 100th place unless your directions tell you otherwise. So when we round it, we'd have to go out here, which I don't have any room on my pad, but we would do another 6. Because this is 6 or above over here, that's going to make this be a 7. So our decimal here would be 3.67. So that would be how you would write it as a decimal. But I want to show you another way. And you might say, Mrs. Greenlee, how do I know which way I'm supposed to write it? Again, it all depends on the question that's being asked and what the directions are. If you're not sure, you can't go wrong any of these ways. As you move into middle school, your teachers will probably have you write your answers not so much with a remainder as they will either a decimal or as I'm going to show you now, as a mixed number. So all I did here was get us back to the point where we were dividing before. 3 goes into 22 3 times, 6 goes into 22 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. We subtract and get 4. At this point, you have a decision to make. How do I keep on dividing, or how do I show my answer? One way that you can show your answer, in addition to what we've learned before, is to take your leftover, right here, 4, and because this represents 4 towards the next amount to give us another whole. If I had 6 here, that means I'd have another whole. Another way of writing it would be put it up here as your numerator, take what it is that you're dividing by, and put it as your denominator. Oh, we remember that. That looks familiar, right? 3 and 4, 6. That was just that pizza illustration that we did. So that's how you would take 22/6 as an improper fraction right here and turn it or convert it or change it. To convert means to change. You would change it into a mixed number. See what we did there? We said 22 divided by 6. So our answer would be 3 and 4 6. And then remember, I told you as you give a final answer anymore, I want you to reduce it. Can you think of something that you can divide 4 and 6 by? 2. So we're going to simplify this. This is going to end up being 2/3, so you'd have 3 and 2/3. So that must mean that 3 and 2/3 is equivalent to 3 and 4/6, which is equivalent to 22/6. Yeah, all of those numbers, all those amounts would be equivalent. Let's do one more. Sorry about my mini board situation here. I couldn't get down to school today to do this. All right, let's think of an improper fraction here. Let's think of 17/5. That's our improper fraction. What we want to see is what that looks like as a mixed number. So it's 17 divided by 5. 17 divided by 5. 5 goes into 17 3 times 5 is 15. We subtract, we get 2. We use our leftover here to represent the fractional amount towards our next whole. So we have 2 left over, that's our numerator, and we're dividing by 5, that's our denominator. So we would have 3 wholes and 2/5 of the next one. So 17/5 equals 3 and 2/5. Now let me show you how to do the opposite. Let me show you how to take a mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. So if I have 2 and 3/4, what I'm actually asking myself is, if I want to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction, I'm saying, how many fourths do I actually have? Well, the mathematical shortcut way of doing that is to say, if you take 4, your denominator, and multiply it by your whole number, 4 times 2, that gives you 8, and add this amount to it, you're going to end up with your new numerator. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. What is it that we're trying to see how many we have? Fourths. So we keep our denominator the same. 11/4 is the same thing as 2 and 3/4 in terms of the amount. We would have 2 pizzas over here. 1, 2. We know that we're dividing them into fourths because that's what we're working with here. So we're going to split these up into fourths. We have 2 whole pizzas right here. And then we have 3/4 of another one. So that means we have 1 piece gone. That's what we would have there. Let's count them up. Well, we have 2 wholes, so that's the same thing as saying there are 4 slices in each whole, but we have 2 wholes, so that's where we get the 4 times 2, that's 8. And then we're going to add these other 3 pieces to it, giving us 11. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What is it that I'm talking about? I'm talking about fourths. There you have it, 11/4. So 2 and 3/4 is equivalent to 11/4. So that's a little lesson on mixed numbers and improper fractions. We're going to be working with those terms as we move forward, and I want you to be familiar with how to, first of all, what they are, and then how to change them or convert them from one to another. All right.